Hi, it's me. I thought I'd jump on here real quick, do a little craft with me video while I put my granny squares together for my granny square shop along crochet along that I'm doing over on YouTube here. I figured I'd knock out two birds with one stone because I am a member of Net Gallery, which is a review site that will send you a book to read in turn for an honest review. So I figured I'd knock out two things at one time. I'd give you a craft with me video and I'd tell you about a book that I got to review. I can pick and choose which books that I want to review. This is not a paid situation. The only thing I get out of this is I get to keep the book, which that's it. I get no money, no nothing. I just get a book. In return, in no way, shape, or form am I required to give them a good review. Okay? That's not the situation. If I didn't like the book, then I tell them. Okay? Then I say it in the review that I didn't like it, what I didn't like about it. You know, if there were any bonuses to it or parts that I like, I talk about that. That's it. I don't have to give them a 5-star review on this book or anything. I can tell them that, yeah, this book was not for me, yada, yada, yada. So I figured I'd kill two birds with one stone and do it all in one thing. So I chose a book called Something in the Walls. And this is the cover of it, of the one that I have, called by Daisy Pearce, I believe is how they say her name, is Daisy Pearce, called Something in the Walls. Okay, I will also leave it, I will also put a picture of it up here in the thing. And so the description of the book goes: unbearably tense, utterly propulsive, and studded with folklore and horror, Somewhere in the Walls is perfect for anyone who loves Midsummer and The Haunting of Hill House. Okay, I have watched both of those. I have read those and I did enjoy them. And so I'm like, okay, seems interesting. And I was in a horror mood or a scary mood. So I figured I'll give it a chance. So the whole entire book thing says, newly minted child psychologist Mina has little experience in a field where the first people called are experts. She's been unable to get her feet wet. Instead, she aimlessly spends her days stuck in the stifling heat wave sweeping across Britain and anxiously contemplating her upcoming marriage to careful, precise researcher Oscar. The only reprieve from her small, close world is attending the local bereavement group to mourn her brother's death from years ago. That is, until she meets the journalist Sam Hunter at the grief group one day. And he has a proposition for her. Alice Weber is a 13-year-old girl who claims she's being haunted by a witch. Living with her family in their crowded home in the remote village of Banathel, Alice's symptoms are increasingly disturbing and money is tight. Taking this job will give Mina some experience. Sam will get the scoop of a lifetime, and Alice will get better. Mina's sure of it. But instead of improving, Alice's behavior becomes increasingly explicable and intense. The town of Banathel has a deep history of superstition and witchcraft, and they don't expect outsiders to understand. As Mina races to uncover the truth behind Alice's condition, the dark cracks of Banathel begin to show. Mina is desperate to understand how deep their sinister traditions go and how her own past may be the biggest threat of all. Okay, so I imagine you can figure out why this book appealed to me. You know, I like superstitious books. I gave this book 3 stars out of 5. I did not particularly enjoy reading it. It was it all went smoothly. Everything went good on it. But it seemed like Miss Pearce did not answer the questions that she started out looking for. You find out why Mina is grieving. You find out that, and fair warning, this may have some spoilers in it. I will try not to. You find out why she's grieving and all that, and you understand, and you understand why. So that is handled. But then the way she describes the haunting is just not, I didn't particularly like it. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't that interesting or that shocking of a haunting. It seemed a little lackluster, in my opinion. I think if she fleshed out, in my opinion, I think if she had fleshed out the haunting a little more, or the witch a little more, basically gave the witch a little bit of a backstory. I mean, she took this just as it was just something like not something would normally happen. Nothing big. And while that may be what she was trying to achieve, and she did it, but to me, she made it more to where the witch just wasn't believable. Which Mina doesn't believe that it's happening, that she's actually a witch. And mind you, Alice lives in a house with 2 other children and her parents. Okay, so that's 4 people in a 3-bedroom house that is, from what I understand of the description of it, is probably like a mobile home. You know, like a 3-bedroom mobile home. It's small, it's crowded. It is not necessarily a comfortable thing. And I'm also realizing, also in the process of reading, that her family is on hard times, okay? They don't always, they have bills that are outdated, that are past due. They are about to, lose things, lose part of their house. The house is going to get foreclosed on. They don't know exactly where the next meal's coming from and all that. So if Alice is actually being haunted by a witch, then that would be a scoop. And that would open up magazine deals, videos, TV shows, TV interviews, things that people would be willing to pay them for. At the same time, Alice's father works in a slaughterhouse. And if I remember correctly from the story, he works 1 week on the killing floor and 1 week on the slaughtering floor, on the butchering floor. And the weeks that he works on the killing floor, he doesn't act normal. He comes home. And that is completely understandable. I don't think I could handle a job like that. In fact, I know I couldn't. I have a hard time killing an insect, even if it's annoying me. That's me. So it basically comes down to the point of, you get to where Mina, as a child psychologist, is trying to prove whether or not Mina is actually being haunted by this thing in her chimney of her bedroom, or is this just something that Alice is doing to either get attention, to help with the family, or she's just so distraught over everything that her mind is playing tricks on her. Which, in Mina's opinion, that's what's going on, is her mind is playing tricks on her. Or Mina is making this all up. Because Mina will act like she is possessed. I'm sorry, I just did that again. Mina will not act like she is possessed. Alice will act like she is possessed every now and then. Well, then, and part of all this, while Mina is trying to determine whether or not Alice is actually possessed or, semi-faking it, you get this history, you get this itty-bitty little history thing of their village, of their town. Well, in my opinion, that backstory to the town needs to be fleshed out quite a bit, because you don't really understand why. It's kind of just like dropped on you that this town has some really bad secrets, in my opinion. And so I'm really trying not to trash this book, because it's a good story, but in my opinion, it lacks some things that needed to be done. And I'm trying hard not to bash it. But and yeah, you might guess I'm having a little bit of a difficulty not bashing it, because I'm sorry, it wasn't a for me book. If you want a tame horror story, one where you don't really, if you're fine accepting things and having some unanswered questions or curiosities, then this book will be fine. But if you're like me, who likes to dig into these things and likes to know every little thing, this is not the book for you. This book will, for the lack of a better word, annoy you. You will be sitting here going, okay, so why did this happen? Who is this person again, and how does this relate to this? You'll be going and doing that. I did, especially at the end, because it just, in my opinion, it just was not fleshed out. There was too many holy areas that I think she could have filled. And it may be that the publisher is the one who said, no, we're not putting it in. And her original edits may have had the entire fleshed out story or something. But even if she's going to make this book into a series, I think it did not start off well, because honestly, I would not read it again. There was, in my opinion, there really was nothing remarkable about the storyline. You don't even get some questions answered. You find out why Mina is grieving and why she feels that she needs to grieve. But I think there was a whole lot more that could have been put into it. It could have gotten fleshed out a lot better, in my opinion. This is one of those books where I have read it and then I'm like, okay, I'll just rewrite the parts that I think I need to in my head, so that way, I can call the book as good. And some people may like a book like that. I don't particularly. I want the book to finish. If it's a series, then fine. End me on a cliffhanger. That's fine. But this book, in my opinion, goes off that it is a standalone book with no other parts. And, sorry, I was getting a notice on my phone. And it just, I only gave it 3 stars because it was a good story. I just think that it could have been better. And maybe I'm just being too hard on it or something. I don't know. But it doesn't really make me want to read it again or look at her other books to see what other books she has. And I probably should, because I can see she is a good writer. I can tell that. But I just don't know that she was comfortable with this story. I almost kind of wonder if the story wasn't something that was not necessarily given to her, or she just didn't flesh it out in her head before she did it. The characters, in my opinion, just never really seemed to come to life. And so that was another issue I had. I like my characters to come to life in my head. When I read a book, I watch a movie. I don't see the words. I basically watch a movie in my head of the book. And if I am just sitting here seeing words, then the characters are not coming to life in my head. The story never came to life for me. And I just did not enjoy it that much. I finished the book, but I just really did not enjoy the book that well. So basically, the book is expected to be published in February of 2025. It is, if you like a mild horror story, then it'll be a good story. If you like something that is not very scary, or anything, I think you would be just fine with it. But if you like a decent horror that is going to scare you, leave you sitting on the edge of your chair, nail biting, trying to figure out, it's like, oh my gosh, this is not that book. I don't know if the author will republish or anything, but I know this is a new book that does not due out until February of 2025. So in no way am I sitting here telling you not to read it. I just would rent it from a library. I would not buy it. But that's me. If you think this sounds interesting and you think that my review is all completely wrong, that's fine. That's your choice. So that concludes my review of this book in order to satisfy the NetGalley requirements. And so at this point, I am going to leave you, and I will see you next time.